If at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Also, hire James Gunn as your writer and director. DC's The Suicide Squad, a title that suggests a certain 2016 travesty never happened in the first place, is a rowdy, explosions and blood filled superhero heist where the worst thing to likely come out of it is some confusion with the similarly titled original. This here is the Suicide Squad, and the only one we'll need from now on, probably. Maybe they should have just called it James Gunn's Suicide Squad to keep with Zack Snyder's Justice League from earlier this year. The concept of this, I'll call it a sequel, is the exact same as the original. A team of infamous villains from comic book lore are assigned to take on a life-threatening mission in exchange for shortened prison sentences. Only the story is way different, as well as some stylistic and filmmaking choices. Compared to the original by David Ayer, The Suicide Squad is a much better written film. I, for the life of me, cannot recall what even happened in that Suicide Squad we got, 7 years ago now? Only that it had something to do with the witch called the Enchantress plotting to destroy the world. The new Suicide Squad is much more memorable, because it makes so much more sense. The team is sent to an island nation that has recently experienced a coup led by militants who plan on using a secret science experiment that's not really so secret if you've seen the trailer, and it's up to the squad to see to it that that doesn't happen. It's not just this simple heist plot that makes The Suicide Squad a better movie. There's so much more humor, as dark as it often is, to lighten the mood when necessary. And speaking of lightning, you can actually see what's going on throughout the entire film. You have scenes taking place at night and in dark areas, but you can still see and make out characters and actions going on. Fight scenes in the original were sometimes so dingy that all you had to look at were black outlines of people running at each other and clashing. As superior as Gunn's film is to the original, it never decides to waste time mocking it and instead uses it as a stepping stone to bring back and expand on characters from before. It uses Harley Quinn's Joker breakup, which was what last year's Birds of Prey was centered on, to propel a romance subplot, but even more compelling is Amanda Waller, the mastermind behind the squad. Waller is absolutely ruthless in this movie, using everything she has on the team members to make sure they follow orders and willingly sacrifices any one of them at any time to make sure the mission is completed. This isn't just more vile than the bureaucratic do-gooder she was made out to be in the original, but also a more accurate version of how she is in printed issues. It also introduces a variety of characters who stand out much more than the originals did. For instance, Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, is pretty much just a reskin of Deathstroke, but the relationship he has with his daughter is much more realized than the one Will Smith's character had from 2016. What's even better is the way it complements another character, Ratcatcher 2, played by Daniela Melchior, who's been left with no one to care about since losing her dad to his drug addiction. Something else that this Suicide Squad does that sets itself apart from not just its predecessor, but its fellow DC properties, is how it lets its characters be true to their source material counterparts. Gunn embraces all the silliness of each of the squad members' abilities. For instance, David Dalmatian's Polka Dot Man's powers are just as ridiculous as they are in the comics, but they're played off of so well that they make you excited to see in action just as much as they make you want to laugh. Then take King Shark, voiced by none other than Sylvester Stallone. On the surface, he's a man-eating and more violent version of Guardian of the Galaxy's Groot, but in the end turns out to be a big softy who just wants a friend. Meanwhile, Star the Conqueror has been effectively turned from a B-grade Aquaman nemesis into a brain-controlling space creature who makes the Independence Day aliens look like the Martians from Sesame Street. There's such a great handling of characters in this movie. The most fascinating and surprising of them all has to be the eventual headbutting between the returning Rick Flag and the brand new Peacemaker, played by Joel Kinnaman and John Cena respectively. When they come across the real intentions behind their mission, the two have an ultimately fatal disagreement of ethics versus obligation that gives this Suicide Squad an unexpected yet brilliant slice of commentary. I never would have expected 2016 Suicide Squad to be followed up by a movie that ends with an allegory on the militarization and exploitation of Latin American countries by global powers. Well done, James. Well done. With all the character development, cohesiveness, and joyful action that David Ayer's film sorely lacked, The Suicide Squad is better than it has any logical right to be. Not only is it funnier and more violent than the likes of Guardians of the Galaxy and Deadpool, but I honestly think it's overall better, although doubtfully will ever be as iconic. It also earns its R rating, something I felt Birds of Prey didn't really deserve. The violence is graphic, but never becomes monotonous, and the humor, as blue as it sometimes is, never feels juvenile. There's also a sense of danger that was absent in the dull and underwritten original. When half of the group is immediately wiped out from the get-go because it's all part of Waller's plan, it's a wake-up call to where this team gets its namesake. It's called the Suicide Squad for a very good reason. This movie was a blast. The Suicide Squad did not disappoint me. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 4. Thank you for watching.